We up and running, bro? Yes, we
Well,
are.
I like the fact that it says the broadcast is live. So now we actually know we are live for the
Yes, sir.
first time ever. You and I are doing a brunch on a Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Probably a little late, but you were trying to get your coffee in you, and I was just finished making mine as well. But welcome to everybody who's coming in on brunch. We appreciate your guys' patience, as well as coming on with us on a Sunday. We've obviously made the change for 2023 to be doing these brunches on Sundays instead of Saturdays. Saturdays is generally kind of the day that we're all with our families around here. We try out of the 52 Saturdays to make sure we stick to it as much as possible. But I'm Jazz Takar. With me is my boy Simeon Papayilius, aka Simos. You know how many times people are like, they think that's two different people, by the way, Simos. They're like, well, your partner's Simeon. I'm like, right, Simos. I just kind of mentioned it. But anyways, I thought it would be good for us to mention it. Welcome to everyone. We have a very jam-packed hour for everyone, as Simeon and I were talking yesterday, just about like, hey, like what do we want to address this brunch? And we
Well,
thought, because it's our first one for the year, and generally Simos and I do this once a month, and then every other Sunday there still is a brunch happening, except it's a different segment. It's with Tyler Walburn, and that's where he's actually sitting down with real investors and telling their stories. And I always like to make mention of this, right? It's not a testimonial. This is not an infomercial that we're putting on with Tyler's segment. In fact, there's investors that we've done this with before. And if you're watching live right now on YouTube, I mean, you're able to scroll down and see some of our past episodes, myself and Simos, but also Tyler's. And you'll notice, like, some of these guys and gals, they didn't even buy their real estate with us. And so we're okay with that. We just want to share as many people's successes. But what I love about investors is that they're not scared to also share their failures, right? And something that we say a lot around here is success leaves clues. And
so does failure, of course.
100%, right? And I think as real estate agents, as real estate investors, business owners, entrepreneurs, really anybody who has a pulse, it might be a good idea to pick up on some of those clues so you can cut down the learning curve. I don't think you can, you can create wealth in any one of those strategies very, very quickly necessarily, but there is definitely ways that you can cut down people's success. But I mean, Simos, let's just kind of jump into this, brother. Like, I know both of us have the headlines from the past couple of weeks that we want to kind of comment on, and so I'll throw it to you, brother. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I just want to start and say good morning to all our REC insiders from coast to coast. As always, one of our favorites to see where everybody's logging in from. Give us a quick shout out and rep your city, rep your province, rep your vacation spot, wherever you may be. Just shoot us a quick hello and where you're coming in from. Today, as Jazz kind of warned everyone, we're going to be going, we have a pretty packed hour, pretty packed show. We want to cover the legislation that has come into effect in the last year, which I never realized how many articles we've done, how much exposure we've had, Jazz, how many contributions we've made to discuss these things. And first, and the biggest one of all, I can't believe how much legislation has come in the last year. I'm talking about like 7 different major items.
Yeah, because when they announced it last year, it was probably announced sometime in I'm going to say summer. I could be off by a month or two. And it was like everything's coming into effect in 2023. But at that time, you're like, okay, I still got 5, 6, 7 months left until all these come in. And majority of them all started as of January 1st, 2023. So at least we have a month's worth of data. Some of these things, we've seen similar strategies and legislation put into place in the past. And so we do have some data. I mean, history being, as I always like to say, you say the same thing, being one of our best teachers, we kind of know, like, all right, this might be a little bit of a Band-Aid. This possibly could, this specific legislation could possibly have a bigger effect. And as I see the comments coming in where everyone is coming in from, if you missed the first couple of minutes, we did give a car away. So I don't know, you might need to listen to the recording or something of that. So next time, please come in a little earlier. All joking aside, we're going to be going through the headlines, brother. Which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, so just from a wide angle, we're going to be covering the non-resident speculation tax, which is the 25% for Ontario. We're going to be covering off the foreign home buyer ban across the metropolitan centers in the country, the anti-flipping tax that's coming into play, the interest-free student loans coming into play by the government, the federal portion, what that can mean for real estate, the City of Toronto vacant home tax, and last but not least, the Ontario More Homes Built Faster Act, championed by OREA and our friend, Mr. Tim Hudak. They're trying really, really hard to get that done and finalized. And last but not least, for our friends in British Columbia, they just got introduced with a home buyer rescission period. And what's that going to look like? What does that do to negotiation? And what does that do to your ability as an agent to serve the best interests of your clients? And what does the ability to cancel do to negotiations? So if I'm here selling my home and there's heat and there's momentum, the deal can just disappear because somebody changed their mind. It really takes all the dynamics out. So anyways, that's what we're going to be discussing today, guys.
And Simos, I should mention, brother, because they're going to see us flipping a lot of papers and stuff like that. If you're looking for any of these, not only the headlines, but we're actually diving into it. There's important information to know. There's key points, what the exemptions are of some of these rules put into place. Send a quick email to info@reccanada.com and just say, I would like the articles that the boys were talking about. Just throw that in the subject.
We're going to have, like, I have them in our note format. I'm going to have them. I'll have a client-facing version.
Yeah.
For you guys. Give me till Monday, Tuesday.
That's why I said just throw it. I mean, throw it in the throw an email to info@reccanada just in the subject line, and we'll make sure that we get all that over to you. My first one that I have here, brother, is anti-flipping tax. I'm not sure how the team printed it for you. Is that the first one?
Fine.
Okay, perfect. So what is it? So as of January 1st, 2023, any profit that is made from the sale of a property which was owned for less than 365 days will be deemed 100% taxable as business income. Okay, so let's talk about this, Simos. Why is that something that our flippers, as we like to call them, need to? What do they really need to know about that?
Well, there's a few things to unpack here. So anything, if you sell after the 365-day period, the old tax rules apply. I can assure you that the government, it's not just as black and white as 365 days. If they see a pattern that you're selling a home every year, 4 years straight, even under the old rules, you would have been audited and sought after for business income. This is to stop the day trading of real estate. First and foremost, right now, to all the day traders of real estate out there, to all the flippers, 90% of the people that got hurt in the last year are speculative investors. What do I mean by that? If you bought a house last year in February at the height of the market, but you're an end user without selling your home, not having to sell your home, you have a 5-year, more than likely a 5-year fixed rate that's extremely low because it's before the interest went up. And once the interest started going up is when those values teeter-tottered a bit down, 10, 12%. So to anyone last year who bought a home at the height of the market with still the interest rates low, you know very well that you're more than okay. The flipper out there, to where this is targeting, that bought at the height of the market, and then interest went up, and they had a 12-month project. They had a 6-month project. They had an 18-month project on the horizon. They're upside down $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. This is who this is targeting, because prior to February, that December, from November 2021 to February 2022, there was an inflation of growth that was unprecedented. It was 10 to 15% inside a matter of 3 months, which is why the bubble popped. Because there was no housing bubble. There still isn't a housing bubble. There's a housing shortage. But there was a fake bubble. A bubble that was created by free money and frenzy. And this anti-flipping tax takes that away forever. Meaning that if you want to use real estate as an investment tool, you want to do it as a business, it's business income. Because we have said this on this show 400,000 times. Flipping is not real estate investment. That's real estate business. You are now a builder. You are now you are in the business.
And for the people that don't know why this is big, when if you made $100,000 in terms of the business income, that all of that goes, like, you need to declare all of that 100,000 when it's capital
business income, not right? Capital gain.
Exactly, and that's what I want to touch on with capital gains. 50% of the profit. So using that same example, it wouldn't be the 100,000 that you would need to declare as income. It would be 50,000. And so this is big. This is going to deter some people from flipping within that first year. Keep in mind, it also applies to your principal residence. So for the friends and family and all of our insiders, even if you buy a property, you close on the property, you live in the property, but you end up selling within the first year, where in the past you could say, well, look, I got all my mail here. I lived here. Here's all the proof. Here's the utility bills. Here's the letter from the school that my kids went to the school down the street. If you flip in that first year, and it might be because of, there is certain exemptions that I think we're going to, I definitely want to touch on. But if you sold within that first year, even in your principal, for your principal residence, the tax still applies. So very, very important. Another note that I think people need to make note of, especially in our community, is assignments. Right now, assignment sales have not been added to this legislation. So in my opinion, though, I think it's coming. I mean, once they've already added all kind of flipping properties, because essentially an assignment as high as, and I don't have actual data, but I kind of have my feet to the ground. I'm going to say as high as 80% of people, if not 90% of people who do an assignment, it was done for the purpose to flip and make profit. I leave that 10 to 20% because of financial hardship. They had, the intention was to close and then rent it out from an investor's perspective, but for whatever reason, they're flipping it. But now you have 80% of people who are buying homes, buying condos, and flipping them before the property closes, which majority of our community knows is an assignment. So the government, the CRA, it's coming for that. Like, there's just millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars that get traded every year that they can kind of get their tax on as well.
So what they've done, so assignments specifically, condominium assignments, have absolutely been decimated. The profits that people used to make, right now it's almost not worth it. Not almost, it's not worth it. The amount of work it takes. So let me just take you through this on an assignment for a condominium. If you were to buy let's say you buy pre-construction today, it's going to close 4 years out. Year 3, you're allowed to now assign. You get an agent, you hire an agent. There's going to be 5% commissions. Okay. There's going to be any legal costs, any assignment costs that the builder may have in their contract, which ranges from a percentage of profit all the way to a fee, all the way to $0, depending on what your agent negotiated for you when you first bought it, right? Then it has to be reported, meaning it's reported 100% by the lawyers transferring the assignment. It's their legal obligation. So there is no way that the CRA does not get enlightened with the information of your assignment. That was done, what, 4 years ago? Back in 2017, I believe, around the Ontario Fair Housing Plan, they started beating those down.
April 17.
And it's 100% business income unless you have proof of a divorce, a death, a hardship that you would have to do. What was it called when you have to do with a lawyer?
Notary.
Disclosure. Which one?
Notary.
A notarized disclosure of your circumstances. Otherwise, it's 100% business income. So that has been there. It's not part of this bill yet, the anti-flipping. But those measures in assignments have been in place already in the major way. You add this where now it's 100%, there is no escape. What's left on the bone? So they are looking at closing down any speculation of real estate to leave it for the buyers to keep the prices and or the frenzy down.
And not only for the buyers, Simos. I mean, I think, I actually like this legislation, right? Because now it's going to make people hold on to their properties longer. It's not only for the end users, but for tenants, right? Like there's going to be actual more homes that could be rented out, possibly could bring rents down to make it more affordable for tenants. I know that's not something that necessarily investors like to hear, and I understand that. But look, I'm a fan of it. At the end of the day, as you mentioned earlier, brother, it's not investing into real estate from our perspective. These are our opinions. And if we had a disclaimer here, I mean, it would pretty much say in layman's terms, these are the opinions of Jazz Takar and Simeon Papaelius and REC Canada. But we think real investing into real estate is holding on to your properties for the long term. Hence why when values go up and values go down, interest rates go up, interest rates go down, it doesn't really make us lose sleep as much, because when values go up, that's when you refinance, pull out equity, and maybe look at more. When values are coming down, like where we're at now, as the market has shifted, where we're sitting as of right now, as of today, February 2023, maybe right now might not be the time to do a refinance, but you can always look at, and talking about assignments, I mean, there are people, I apologize, that cannot close on those condos that they bought 3 years ago. And now they have to sell. And so we probably have a list of, I'm going to say 10 to 15 current, like as of right now, assignments that our sellers and others that have come into our community have said, listen, I need you to sell this. I need to liquidate. And so from an investor's perspective, if you have capital that you want to deploy, that type of strategy, picking up an assignment, where the legal term would be you being the assignee, you picking up something like that was bought maybe 3 years ago, you can maybe even pick it up at the very similar pricing of what was 3 years ago for a pre-construction condo. And so that is a strategy. Just send us an email, info@reccanada.com, and in the subject line, literally in the subject line, just write, please send me current assignment listings, and we'll have that to you by Monday, Tuesday, end of day Tuesday kind of latest, because that might be a strategy for some. In terms of exemptions, we should maybe really quickly touch on this. I mean, if there's a death of the taxpayer or related person, a breakdown of mortgage, of marriage, not mortgage, a breakdown of a partnership, threat to personal safety, disability, or serious illness. What else do we got?
Well, my man, I think I want to take it from the anti-flipping tax, which is there to stop the day trading of real estate. But I want to go straight into the Ontario More Homes Built Faster Act, because this legislation now, the Ontario More Homes Built Faster Act, not only does it enable real estate investors, it's going to create the biggest opportunity of our lifetimes. In real estate. And I'm talking about the retail mom and pop investor. I'm not talking about multinational companies, but it creates them too. You're going to see the rise of some pretty big outfits as a result of this legislation. So to all the flippers out there, what if I were to tell you that there is a better way? And the better way involves a faster timeline, it involves a greater product, and it involves the betterment of our communities. As opposed to buying any given lot, let's use Etobicoke as an example, because we've built homes in Etobicoke. Jazz and I have. And when we built these homes in Etobicoke, we went and we picked up a beautiful 60-foot lot right in the Humber corridor. What was the street's name?
Wimbledon.
Wimbledon.
I remember it because of the tennis championship.
Yes, in Humber, that was in Humber Village, and which is one of the most coveted neighborhoods in Etobicoke. So we buy this beautiful $2 million piece of land. We hire the best architect in David Small, our builder. Big shout out to Jim Carrick. He put that beauty together. Then we partnered with him and all the things. That thing took 2.5 years, man. The carrying cost, because money wasn't cheap back then. My money was what, at 4.5%? Very similar to today. Maybe a little bit lower than today.
It was probably a little less than that, yeah, because that would have been early
2015 and 2016.
Yeah, late 16. Yeah. That makes
late
sense.
16. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So when we were building those, we had to carry those. We had to take those through minor variances. We had to get all the studies done. And you're taking one home and you're replacing it with a super luxury home. Great. It was a lot of fun. But did we change the community for the better? We put a better home on it, a more beautiful home on it. Somebody very wealthy is living there in a $5 million home today. But this legislation allows, as of right, without going to minor variance, without having to buy and carry it for 2 years, this legislation will allow you to buy any bungalow in East York, in Etobicoke, in Scarborough. And as of right, in the zones that they specify, you will be able to add up to 3 doors. So there's one there now. You can add an income suite in the basement and a laneway home, a garden suite. You can go up, you can go sideways.
You can go right into a triplex too. I think that's more like, I think that's something to
100%.
Sure, right? Like you don't have to go down the laneway stuff. Seamless. I want to make sure that I'm not missing that, right? Like you can literally go right from a bungalow into a triplex.
So the 3 units could all be within the existing residential structure,
yep,
or could take the form of a residence with an in-law or basement suite,
yep,
and a laneway or garden home. They just want housing. They want affordability to return to the city, where if you want to remain to live in Toronto, you have an option. That's all we're looking for. And when you speak to real estate investors now, we are real estate investors. All of our audience is real estate investors. This is where the opportunity becomes real. And I'll tell you why. In order for you to add a door to your portfolio, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a condo, or you're going to buy a house with 2 doors. A house is $1.2 million, 2 doors, $600K a door. A condo, again, 650, 700, whatever the case may be.
We're talking
that's
GTA.
The cost of a door in the GTA.
Yeah.
In this case, we can buy a home, call it $1 million, but now we can add a laneway home, we can add a garden home, we can add a basement, we can add up a story. And whatever you choose, whether it's $250 to build a laneway home, another $250 to build another story and put another apartment up, you've added 2 doors for $500,000. And even if you look at it as a purchase completely, you bought it for $1 million, added $500,000 for 3 doors, you still brought your cost per door down to $500K.
And now the rental income goes from an average of, call it $3,000. Now this is where it gets really interesting, because now you're probably flirting in and around $5,500 to $6,500 out of that one property, where we always get the question, how do I add the most value to my property? There is a lot of value that gets added by redoing the kitchen, redoing the flooring. The highest return, the biggest delta, in my opinion, that you get is just by doing paint. because it's very, it's not that expensive to do, but you get people walking into your property when you sell it or when you're renting it out, and it's nicely freshly painted. But make no mistake about it, there is nothing that adds more value to a property than actually adding suites. And why that actually adds more value is because you're adding actual income to your portfolio, to the property. It's why adding a basement apartment has always been beneficial. I mean, for me, it's called the Brampton Special because that's what we all did in terms of my paisans and I, is you buy a property and at the quickest time that you possibly can put together 70, 80, 100,000 bucks in today's pricing, actually, and get a basement apartment done. But now to be able to take it to 3 units, I mean, this is just huge. I actually feel like not enough people are talking about it. It's something that are here at REC Canada through a real estate action plan with one of our investment coaches, which is led by Tyler Walburn, but he has a team of coaches. That's what a lot more people are asking about, like at least in our community, because I think there's opportunity there. There's massive white space to go look for some of these bungalows, like in the East Yorks, in the Durhams, in Brampton.
Oh, it's endless, Jazz.
It's
like
endless,
the
right?
opportunity that's coming is going to be on fire.
And really quickly, we should give a shout out to one of our insiders. Not sure if he's watching right now or not, but if you are, Ronald, please, from Property Pathways, let us know if you're watching. But he's actually doing some guest blogging for us. You would have noticed that in some of our bi-weekly emails that we sent out. But his company, that's what he does. Like he takes these bungalows and adds a basement apartment, talks about the process, literally holds your hand, fully turnkey, man. Like it's a fully turnkey process. Obviously, there's no like going through minor variances and like committee of adjustments here, but you still need to know what you're doing. Like you can't, in our opinion, I mean, we're in the real estate industry, we're in the business. I would never do this even on my own. Right. And so we can make all those kind of connections for you. We don't get paid to talk to you about Property Pathways and Ronald. And there's more than just his company, but he's part of the community. He's an insider. He's an investor himself. And so we would love to kind of make those connections. In terms of the Ontario More Homes Building Faster Act, I mean, you mentioned his name earlier, but please, guys, if you're new to our community, go into our playlist for Brunch with REC, and you'll see the guy. And he's a good friend of ours. We're lucky to call him a friend, Mr. Tim Hudak. But you'll see a couple, if not 3, 4 conversations we've had with him, as well as here on Brunch with REC, but other podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I would love for everyone to go back and hear those conversations, because I think maybe about 18 months ago, he was talking about this coming out, but he wasn't really able to say it. And now it's, as of January 1st, we're ready to rock with something with this specific type of legislation. Cool. Let's move on to, I actually want to go to City of Toronto vacant home tax.
That's exactly how I had it grouped as well. Great job.
I got those little yellow slips in the mail recently, yep. So I know exactly what that is. For anybody who is an investor or has a property that you're renting out, you probably noticed, and this now is only in Toronto, so this is not Ontario. So if you have properties outside of Toronto, you wouldn't have got these little slips in the mail, but you need to declare if you're renting out your property, if you're living there, or if it's vacant, because if it's vacant, as of January 1st, all properties deemed vacant for more than 6 months during the previous year will be charged a 1% tax on the current value assessment, for short CVA of the home, which is a little different than market value. The current value assessment is what you get in the mail, which is from MPAC, which is your property assessment. And that's done for your property tax. So it's an additional 1%. If you got a $500,000, if it was $500,000, you're going to pay an extra 1% if you had it vacant for more than 6 months for the previous year. Again, I think this is a good tax, man. Like if you're just sitting here with properties. I always go back to a trip I took maybe, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, pre-COVID, to Panama. And at night, you kind of get to see all these buildings, and there's no lights on these buildings, like none of them. You know what I mean? Like you'd see a building, a condo building, apartment building, whatever it was, of 300 units, and you might have seen lights on of like 25 of them. You kind of get an idea what's going on there. It's a great tax haven. It's a great place to shelter some, what do they call that? Shell corporations, and have all, have some money put away. But here, you can't do that anymore in Toronto. And I think that's great, because if you have a property and it's sitting vacant, you should be putting that out on rent. You should be selling it. You got to get it back into the marketplace for inventory. Your thoughts, Simos?
My thoughts mirror exactly that. I don't believe people have okay, let me put it this way. People have the right to do whatever they want. For those who want to do whatever they want, you just don't have to do it here. So I'm a huge proponent of forward progress. I don't believe in NIMBYism. If you are one of NIMBY, go do it somewhere else, man. Go do it where all the
NIMBY people are not going. People are going to think that we're just talking gibberish. What is NIMBY?
NIMBY is not in my backyard. So if you're ultra rich and you want to hang out with the rich, and you don't want to see me ever in your face, you never want to see anyone in that face, you never want to see the green car driving by and all these things, don't do it here.
What's the green car? I don't know.
Whatever.
What's the green car? I don't know.
I don't know. The garbage truck. I don't know, Jazz. People have a problem with everything.
That was like a city official car that I've never seen.
No. I'm just talking because
I miss doing brunch with you, man. It's first one for 2022.
City of Toronto appeals. I've been to minor variance committees and committee of adjustment, and if you hear the absolute shit that comes out of people's mouths, you would just not believe it. Oh, I don't want dust on my flowers and my trees during construction time. But when you build your home, you piece of garbage, it was okay for dust to be everywhere. All these things. So this is what holds a city back. Councillors, because they want to be elected, come and humor these people because they need the votes. There is a time and place for progress, and that time is now, and it's finally happening that the current government, the Ford government, has been able to make progress. Thank God. And I don't care whether it's right or left or this or that or whatever the case may be. I care about progress. I don't give two shits who's on there. Ford is doing a great job right now for housing. Our Mayor Tory, who I was never the biggest fan of, is doing an amazing job right now as the mayor of Toronto. Like him, don't like him. If you look at what he found and what he's delivering, it's a better place. Ford, exact same thing. What he found, what he's delivering is a better place. I'm not going into politics. I'm going to housing and affordability. Affordability has never been worse. Never. And that has nothing to do with real estate speculation. All these things have cooled the market completely. But at the end of the day, there's still major concerns here for affordability. Tenants have to pay $3,000 for a 2-bedroom downtown.
Yeah, no, but about that, and this is something that we might, maybe disagree on, or maybe we agree on it, but you're saying it differently, or maybe I'm hearing it differently. Like when I hear $3,000, let's use the 1-bedroom example, just for giggles right now. When I think of a $2,500 unit in downtown Toronto, 1-bedroom, some buildings with parking, some buildings without. But then when I put that against Simos, the other major cities in the world, I actually think we're pretty cheap.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like when I compare it to the Manhattans and the Londons and the Hong Kongs and the Parises and all that kind of stuff, even in our own backyard in Canada with Vancouver, I actually think like 2,500 is, I'm thinking of the word, and it might be fair, but at least comparable. There's the word I was looking for. I actually think it's quite comparable, right? So when people say it's not affordable, my headspace goes to that maybe you don't need to be then living in downtown Toronto. Like
So
you might need, your expectations are too high.
And that's just it. So everybody can afford it because everybody's paying it. So whoever is there and paying it can afford it because they're working there, they're earning more money, they're doing all these things. But affordability is affecting, it's not just the nucleus that has to live. The people serving at the bar, the people cleaning, the people in construction, whoever's not white collar that lives off of Bay Street needs quality of life. So the question becomes, it's not a matter of you're entitled and you can't live here, you live somewhere else. No, we get that, no problem. So the downtowns can compare globally, and we are affordable and we are all the things. But to the person here in Canada, the income and expenses are not jiving with housing and mortgage rates. So the Ontario More Homes Built Faster Act, this option of providing a 3-to-1 ratio of what's existing today is going to provide massive relief, because this is going to be all by subways, all within the city. It's not going to change downtown. There is no houses downtown. But it's going to change Scarborough. It's going to change Etobicoke. It's going to change East York. It's going to change North York. All those markets, you're going to see rents relieved or staying there because there's going to be 3-to-1 homes. That's how you affect change. So now you have a powerful mid-class supporting the downtown. That's how an economy is going to bustle out of control and be amazing.
Okay, a couple of things I just want to touch on housekeeping, brother. Number one, just quickly sticking with City of Toronto vacant home tax. I've done it for already for a few of my properties. It literally takes like 6 minutes, guys, online to do it. Please don't miss out on doing it, because the fines could be, and the penalties could be up to $10,000. It ranges from $250 to $10,000. But so just don't give away money like that. Make sure if you didn't get it, you can actually reach out to the City of Toronto online to say, hey, I didn't get it. It got lost in the mail, whatever it is. Make sure you get that so you don't get penalized for it. One of the housekeeping notes that I wanted to touch on, all of you who are actual insiders of ours and you receive our emails. So if you are new to our world because someone shared this link for today's brunch and you don't get our emails, please go to recinsiders.com. That's recinsiders.com to make sure that you stay on top of all of our events, our exclusive opportunities, our market updates. And that's the only way to do that. Go to recinsiders.com. Now, to the community that already receives our emails, you would have, and a lot of you registered for our event in person, our first in-person event here at our office. We're super excited. We're stoked to finally see some people and not only see them through the virtual ways. That is Wednesday, February 15th. That event is now at capacity. Okay, so Wednesday, February 15th at 6:30 p.m. at our headquarters, that's at capacity. Now, what happened is that we had more people who have registered and have reached out. The topic that we're going to be covering is going to be landlord intelligence. We're bringing in one of the biggest national property management companies to talk about how to be a landlord and do it effectively. So what do? We had to put on a second event. Okay, these are absolutely free to anybody in our new to our world. Anyone else who knows us, you know that these things are always free. There's no cost to it. We're going to be serving some wine and some cheese. If I behave well, the team said they'll get some crackers as well. So we'll have it nice and stocked.
But you won't, so there'll be no crackers, just cheese.
Yeah. We'll be putting on a second event the night after. So that event is happening on Thursday, February 16th at 6:30 p.m. Okay, our office for an in-person event holds about 50 to 55 people. So I have a feeling we're already, I think, at like 18, 19 registered for the Thursday event. I just want to make sure, and there's the reason I'm speaking slowly is because there's probably people here like, well, what happened to the Wednesday event? That's still happening. If you got your seat and you registered, you're in. But if you want to still come, you just have to come the next day. Okay, Thursday, February 16th. Nikki, I know you're listening in the background. If you can put in the link reccanada.com/events. Excuse me, it's reccanada.com/events. All you got to do is go there, register, because now we're doing that that topic of landlord intelligence. Obviously, people in our community are asking for it because we went over capacity on the first one. The second one will be happening on Thursday, February 16th at 6:30 p.m. in person. Again, talking about landlord intelligence. We got about 20 minutes, Simos. Let's go right into, I think, the next big one. And it's the one that's been kind of flirting around. They've been wanting to bring in this legislation for a while. As of January 1st now, it is in place. It's the foreign home buyer tax. We had it in Vancouver. Don't quote me on this, but probably for the last 4 to 5 years, probably closer to 5 years. And now it's here in Ontario. Well, now I apologize. It's right across the country now. Okay. In the past, it was just for BC, but now it's right across the country. It's the foreign home buyers tax. What is it? As of January 1st, for a 2-year period, anyone who's neither a Canadian citizen nor a permanent resident and non-Canadian company owner cannot purchase property in Canada.
Cannot purchase residential.
I apologize, because that's obviously part of the exemptions. Cannot purchase residential property in the country. And this is a 2-year ban that has been put on. Go into it, Simos.
So we're finding
actually, why don't you touch on what is residential? What is residential?
So any dwelling less than 4 doors, including townhomes, semi-detached, condominiums, assignments, anything that has to do with residential real estate. And it has to do with anything with residential real estate in major metropolitan centers and or that Canadian map provided on Stats Canada. So the truth is, a person from anywhere on the globe can still buy Canadian real estate, but just not in any city that you want to live in, basically.
And anything that has 4 doors and less, yeah.
So no, you can buy residential real estate completely. They've locked every single city in the country. If I could share, I don't even know if I can share my screen on this. There is a map. I will send out the link so people can check. Every major city center is blocked off. So basically, they can buy potentially, let's call it in Muskoka. For example, if Muskoka was a green zone. But they've made the red zones across the entire country, and they're pretty much every major city for the next 2 years. And they're looking, why? Because they just want to make sure that they have dotted their I's and crossed their T's, that they provide every single door available to Canadians first. So if Canadians have to compete, they're not going to compete with a global investor.
Now, as I mentioned, I liked some of these other ones. This one, I don't really care for it, to be honest with you, in terms of I have really nothing attached to it because I really don't think it plays a big factor. Last 10 years, we've done approximately, I'm going to say on average, about 6,000 transactions. If we take about 600 every single year that our team does on average, it's about 6,000 transactions. I think I can count on one hand, how many were outside of our country that we're purchasing here. And so I just don't see it often enough. In the last year, I didn't have one person, not one person that reached out to me, that reached out to us and said, I would like to purchase a property in the GTA, obviously where we do 95% of our business, and that they weren't a Canadian citizen. So maybe there's people who are watching right now and they're agents and they're like, bro, I get 50% of my business from there. I get it. But I mean, for us, we really don't see it within our organization. And I like to think that, we're in the top 5 in the country for those last 10 years, somewhere number 1 to number 5. And so we have a lot of data. That is my thought. Now, there is a lot of exemptions to this rule. And some are still, I speak to a lawyer once a week about this, because I'm really trying to just get an understanding as we shoot content and talk about it like here on Brunch. But one thing that people should realize is that students are considered temporary residents if certain things apply. And so I'm just kind of reading this off of my notes here. Must be enrolled in an authorized designated learning institution, must have filed tax returns for each of the 5 taxation periods prior to the purchase, and have been physically present in Canada for a minimum of 244 days for each of the 5 calendar years, and must have not previously purchased residential property. Other exemptions are refugees refugees of the Refugee Protection Act, foreign ministers with a valid passport, spouse or common laws of partners of Canadian citizens and residents. So there's some exemptions that obviously need to be noted. Again, reach out to us by sending us an email at info@reccanada.com and just say, we want all those pieces of paper that the boys were kind of reading off, because then you can kind of get this in your hands, and make sure that you always, just it's in my head right now, make sure that you always bring in a lawyer as early as possible when you're thinking about buying, selling, and investing. I think too many people wait to wait for like a week before closing, 2 weeks before closing to bring in the lawyer, and that's just too late. The lawyer in real estate, 99.9% of them, they don't charge you like a corporate lawyer might or a criminal lawyer might, where you get charged for every phone call and or email. And so in real estate, it's a flat fee. You might as well bring them in as early as.
Charge about the staples, bro.
Sorry?
Remember when we got charged for stationery and staples?
Oh, I've seen those before, bro. It's a funny place they hide that. It's called disbursements. Okay, foreign home buyer tax. I mean, that's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, you covered it very well. It's the foreign home buyer tax. It's a federal legislation. It's 2 years that will be enacted on. I agree with Jazz in the fact that we know as a fact that in the GTA they affected less between 2 and 4% in any single year. 2 to 4% doesn't move the needle at all when we're talking about a 7 million people, 75-kilometer radius market. So it's just never will be a big impact. It's more positioning and bolstering, and the government did something about affordability. How about you reduce development charges? How about you give tax incentives if you actually wanted to help affordability? But we know it's all a crock of shit. This is a crock of shit, and it's not going to help anything. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is a Band-Aid that does nothing.
Okay, let's jump to, because we got about 13 minutes. I think maybe we can touch on the one, unless there's something kind of burning on your plate, but this BC home buyer rescission period, and then maybe we'll do a quick little 5 minutes on the new stats that just came out. Again, you can email us for this as well, info@reccanada.com, and just say we want the GTA stats and its regions, because we can give you the stats for York, Peel, Durham, all of it.
I think we're really going to cover the stats on the 15th, which is just 10 days away. Right. Why don't we? Are we going virtual with that as well? So whoever's there can participate. Obviously, I know it's sold out already the one night.
Yeah.
But are we going outbound with a live as well?
No, not yet. We're not set up for that. We're happy kind of with the technology. I tested it, but right now it's not. So this is an in-person event to our friends and families and our community outside of the Toronto area, the Greater Toronto area. We'll be able to maybe give you some pointers that we spoke about, but unfortunately this one is not going to be being broadcast live because we just don't want to give you a shitty product in terms of the
no problem. So we'll get the stats out in an email as well as with everything else too. So
yeah, and why don't we touch on that? But this BC home buyer rescission period, I think is something that's different, because if they like that foreign home buyer tax, the vacant tax, everything for some reason gets tested over there first, which is okay. They become the guinea pigs there, and it comes to Ontario. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next 6 months, maybe in the next year, that if this home buyer rescission period comes to to Ontario as well. But essentially, in a nutshell, what it is that as of the start of the year, buyers have a 3 business day period to cancel the purchase and sale, so the agreement of purchase and sale contract for no reason required to the seller. So they can give whatever they want. They changed their mind, they got cold feet, which is different than what we're used to on the resale market. And I'll touch on why I said resale market and I emphasize resale market. That right now a buyer can just wake up and say, I got cold feet. The next, they do a deal, agreement of purchase and sale, and then the next morning they could say, I got cold feet, or my mother's brother's cousin's sister doesn't like the house number, or doesn't like the street. I want to cancel this property. In the past, you had to have something that you had to act in good faith, meaning you would have this agreement of purchase and sale conditional on maybe the common conditions, which were financing, home inspection. Another vague one that we use a lot when we're protecting buyers and watching out for when we're protecting sellers was the lawyer's due diligence, because again, that could have been anything that the lawyer picked out, but we've seen that a lot. And then you would have to act in good faith. Like, you couldn't really just say I didn't get financing, or you couldn't say, well, I did the home inspection and there's a slight, there's something wrong with the caulking in the bathroom tub. You couldn't just say that and get out of the deal. You have to act in good faith. Where this now, you can say whatever you want and you can just cancel.
No, you don't have to say anything at all.
100%, right?
So,
I emphasize resale because if you buy pre-construction in Ontario, the way that it sits right now, you automatically get a 10-day due diligence period. And that you can cancel for whatever reason. So we're really used to it on the pre-construction side, on the new build side. And again, just so everybody knows, that only applies on the new build side to properties that have a condo corporation associated with it. So if you buy a freehold detached home in Ontario, don't think that you have a 10-day due diligence period automatically. You have to have it in the agreement of purchase and sale. So this is interesting, man, because, I don't know what's going to deter buyers from putting in offers in 5 different properties at the same night, tying up the properties, having the seller on pins and needles now, and the one buyer has the property tied up, and now that seller can't even entertain any other offers, right? I don't really know what this does, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I'm not seeing what the actual benefit is here.
I'll tell you what it does do. This is complete horseshit. And I'll tell you why this is complete horseshit. We have a competitive market. And the first thing that you said, so you're an agent. You're a real estate agent, Jazz. You're one of the best real estate agents in the market, hands down. Within 10 seconds of putting this in front of you, you just exploited the entire point. You just said, well, why the fuck wouldn't I just go tie up half the market? So for your buyer, you can go tie up the market and then give them a choice. Pick whatever you like, cancel the rest, bud. Who gives a shit about the seller? Who gives a shit about all the other buyers? We can just go in and arbitrarily do whatever we want. We can go ruin somebody else's plan. The dynamic around being able to walk away arbitrarily with a 0.25 of the purchase price, a quarter point. There's a cost to it. They're trying to deter that. But if I'm buying, this is for Vancouver and Toronto. And if you're buying in this city.
Oh, sorry, hang on. We should give the disclaimer here, brother. This is not in Ontario yet.
No, this is where it's going. So if
I just want to make sure that
Ontario is going to get it.
Yeah.
This is for the $1 million markets. So on a $1 million home, 0.25 is $2,500. So I can walk away for $2,500 That can be part of my strategy, and I can save thousands because now I can ruin momentum.
And I'm concerned about like in multiple offers, right?
Of
As
course.
well, because we
That's
know
what I'm referring to, by the way.
sorry,
Momentum is achieved for a seller and for a buyer in competition. Now it's out the window.
right? And
Gone.
so in multiple offers, I mean, this practically happens all the time. Like when you get people to a table, excuse me, 5 people at the table, 5 buyers, and now this one person, okay, gets finalized, they win because of price and terms. The other 4 now, they might not even be there in 3 days. And so now from a seller's perspective, that's like where my head went to right away, right? Like, okay, now that one buyer pulls out and now the home has to go back on the market. And I know some people are like, well, Jazz, it's only 3 days. Guys, like in a day, those other buyers might find another property. And then those properties are tied up. So this domino effect that's going to end up happening is going to be interesting to watch to see what this actually does.
So I believe, Jazzy, that because one of the exceptions is really important. The exceptions, so what does not have to participate in this is
Did I miss something?
real property sold at an auction. There was already talks for Ontario, and there was legislation coming in around real estate auctions. So we're talking about an open bid process at auction, where me and you are competing. 801,000, 802, 803, 900.
It goes
You
to the
have
good looking
900.
Greek on the right side of the building there. Yes.
So if that's the case, if this legislation comes in, I'm gonna guarantee you're gonna see the auction effect coming into play, and or whether it's auction companies or whether it's going to be an auction style process implemented by realtors for everyone, kind of thing, because that's what I would see it becoming.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's not here yet. I mean, I got my feelings around that. I hate the fact that someone's able to tell us how I can sell my property.
It's weird.
I just don't like that. That is really, really weird.
It's intrusive.
Right? Like, why do I have to sell it in the open, like through an open bid process? Like, that doesn't sit right with me, because it's my property. It's so, well, I guess if you really want to find out who owns your property, don't pay your mortgage payment on the 15th, I guess. Or wait until they want to build a highway through your street. You'll find out who really owns your property. Different topic for another brunch. Let's end our 3 minutes here, Simos. Do a quick rapid fire about the GTA market stats. Just came out on Friday, so 2 days ago. Some interesting things that come to the forefront anyways is number one, the metric I always like to look at, 3 months of inventory is now, like literally we're not at 3 months in a week or anything of that. It's exactly 3 months of inventory right across the Greater Toronto area. So obviously you want to look at, if you're a home buyer or you're a home seller or you're an investor, we've said this 1,000 times, don't take the vague numbers that we're giving you right now for the GTA. Always ask for not only your specific region, but your specific type of property and like a kilometer radius, half a kilometer radius. Like get right down to the nitty gritty when you're looking at a property or you're selling a property, nitty gritty of the area that you're in. But right across the Greater Toronto area, we're now at 3 months. So for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to say close to maybe 7 years. I could be maybe off by a year max. We're in what's known in economic terms as a balanced market. Okay. So if nobody lists their property for sale in the Greater Toronto area, based on last month's sales, it would take 3 months to sell off all the inventory. Now, for the people that are thinking, well, have we hit bottom? And are we like in a buyer's market yet? No, you're not, because a buyer's market, the day that you hear myself or Simos or someone from our team or you get the stat that is 5.5 months plus of inventory, actual economic terms, then you're in a buyer's market. So right now we're in a balanced market, which again, it really depends on what side of the fence you are in, right? Like, why does that number matter? For some, it doesn't matter at all, and I totally get it. But if you're an investor, that's interesting to me, because now buyers have a little bit more choice. Okay, we have a little bit more choice. In some areas, we do still see multiple offers, but right across the board, we have more choice now. And an investor, for me, that's huge. And that's huge because now I'm not competing as much as I was 10 months ago, a year ago, specifically, like literally a year to the date, February 2022, where properties were selling in an hour. As an investor, it's very tough to compete with an end user who sees their family growing up in the backyard, an extra 60,000 or 150,000 added to a 25-year amortization period just doesn't really make a huge difference on a payment to an end user. But as an investor, I think now we have more compelling opportunities that are out there. The other big stat that I'm looking at is that in the month of January, we saw 3,100 sales. And so that's obviously based on a couple of things. I think interest rate, again, got increased by 0.25%, as well as there is a little bit to the fact that, like, we're just in that season, right? January is generally a little slower month, but I'll let you kind of, close off with your thoughts on what I just said about the stats, brother.
Yeah, so I find the stats very deceiving. And it's not with malintent. If someone doesn't know the history of the GTA, they would misinterpret them completely. 3 months of inventory, which is the most inventory I've seen in a decade. However, if you speak to any agent, they're going to tell you there is no inventory. There is nothing out there. The correlation between there's nothing out there for the agents and the inventory that's on the market, first and foremost, there's only 10,000 listings across the entire GTA. The problem here is that we have 3,500 buyers. I'm not speaking in circles. We have never only had 3,500 buyers across the entire city act in a month, guys. They have chopped the buyer pool straight out. Increase after increase, 8 of them in 12 months, not even 12 months. Almost every month had an interest rate increase, which is why the rent skyrocketed. So looking at these stats, understand, yes, there is inventory, and there is 3 months of inventory based on how many buyers acted. If tomorrow morning they come out and they stretch amortization in order to bring affordability to the table, if they do anything to liven up the buyer pool, you're going to be straight back under a month of inventory.
Well, and go.
No,
I was gonna say, like, you're bang on with that, brother, because there's a stat that we can never get, because you can't put really a number to it, which is a metric, though, that we like to try to kind of come to grips with, which is a word called in economics, consumer confidence. And I actually think that the announcement that was made on the 25th of January, next announcement, I believe, is March 8th, that is happening from Bank of Canada. Now, please understand, I don't ever go on political rants. I don't lean one way or the other. Like, I really don't pay too much attention to that stuff. But I do know that I'm not going to take anyone's word from Bank of Canada, because I did that at the start of pandemic, in terms of when they said they're not going to touch interest rates till 2024.
Macklin should have been fired a long time ago. I will say that all day long. I don't give a shit.
No, 100%. I mean, he came out. He is the guy that
a lying CEO that has millions and billions of dollars of people's losses on his conscience.
Let him go to sleep at night. It is what it is. But with the 0.25% increase that was done in January, our phones are ringing a little bit more now because people are wondering, have we hit the bottom? Can't tell you if we hit the bottom. Anybody who tells you that we have, or if they tell you exactly when the bottom's going to happen, run away from that person because they're full of shit. How does anybody really know? But when we look at some numbers, if you look at February 2022 to July 2022, so what is that, like a 6-month period or something, right? That was kind of the biggest decrease, I apologize, in pricing that we saw in the last year. That period. Okay, you saw a sharp decline in pricing. If you look at July 2022 to today, there hasn't been a sharp decrease, hasn't been a sharp increase. It's been kind of hovering right around the same. Now, again, I can't time when the bottom's going to be, but when I look at that line, that graph, those numbers, that might be an indication that if there is no increase in March, in fact, even looking in February, when we talk about when we talk about February stats, I have a funny feeling we're going to see more than 3,100 sales. Because
I do as well. I did a big piece with CTV on signaling an interpretation of unpacking the Bank of Canada's commentary last week, and only because I'm way I'm angry about what happened with the Bank of Canada. Like this is, they've taken it to a next level, and it's exactly contrary to everything that they said. And when I say they, the Bank of Canada has to have responsibility and accountability. And clearly they don't, because their CEO who made those statements is still there, feeling that he can still speak and people should listen. That's disturbing to me, very disturbing. But be it as it may, living what we're living through right now, at the end of the day, they did come after. There's not just me, there's millions of Simeons who have looked at Macklin in the face and, said what they really thought they should say.
Hey, there's only one Simeon in my heart, so don't ever say there's millions of Simeons. You're going to get caught for lying. It just doesn't make sense.
Like Macklin. Anyways, what I want to say here is they took a very strong stance in saying that they're going to hold their ground. If they were to come in March and put an interest rate up again, brother, then what are we on to? So I do hope to see this hold. They're being super criticized because of what happened in the past. So I do hope they're not going to say that and become a laughing stock again.
And I'll end off on this, and then you can close it off, brother. In my opinion, don't ever let your financial future in the hands of anyone else. I'm not talking about Bank of Canada. I'm not talking about the banks. I'm not talking about the government. Don't even leave it in our hands. You have to hold yourself accountable for your financial future. And so when we hear these announcements, and we've been on tons of brunches and said, look, it doesn't matter if it's a red government, a blue government, this new reddish orange government, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to drive home right now to our whole community is that your financial future is in your hands. And not to say that that real estate investing is the best investment in the world. I can wholeheartedly say with 110% confidence, it's one of the best. Because anybody who's 18 and plus can do it. You can do it. You can find ways, find joint venture partners, refinance. There's tons of ways to figure out how to invest into real estate. We have places where you can invest as low as $5,000 now into real estate investment trusts. So the excuse that I don't have enough money, out the window, right? And so I really hope on a Sunday, almost afternoon now here in Toronto, people really get that they need to understand that their financial future is in their hands. Because if you're going to look back and say it was his fault or her fault or their fault, not to say you, I mean the collective you, you're going to be caught with your pants down, right? And so you got to be very, very careful. Simos, I'll let you close off, brother. This was an amazing brunch. I had a blast coming back. You and Tyler obviously held it down while I was in sunny Mexico for the first one in January. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys letting me come back on, because, I thought maybe you guys don't want to have me back on since you guys had a kick.
No, it's not true. You're completely irreplaceable, bro. Don't worry.
I saw all the comments. I will sign off by just reminding everybody that you are enough.
And I will let everyone know that I enjoyed today's brunch a lot. I feel, Jazz, you closed off really strong today with reminding people the financial responsibility they have to themselves in using their environment around them to win. I'm going to tell you to enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm going to be very excited to see many of you in person on Wednesday and Thursday, the 15th and 16th. But I want to wish you all a strong weekend ahead. Lots of love from me, from the organization, from everybody around us. We love you. We appreciate you. Reach out to us again, info@REC Canada. Opportunities, questions, support, just for a chat. Please reach out. Hey, and hello to all the people. Jazz and I have been calling people on Fridays. So if we've reached out to you, shout out to you. And if anybody else who wants to chat on a Friday, call us. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Later.